Welcome to Life Happens, where Texans come to protect their legacy and prepare for the second half of life. Join your host, attorney Kim Hegwood with Hegwood Law Group, and our weekly guest as we navigate the challenges that emerge as life happens. Now here's your host, Kim Hegwood.
Good morning to Life Happens. We have a very special guest, somebody I know very well, and Andrea Zaite is with us, and she has A to Z geriatric care. And a lot of people, I think, Andrea, don't really know exactly what you do. And so let's talk about what an aging life care professional does.
Well, great. It's a pleasure to talk with you this morning, and it's a pleasure to give everyone information on aging life care professionals. We are a very old kind of profession, although not well known across the United States, I'm afraid, and I have no idea why, but an aging life care professional is someone who I describe as a family's boots on the ground to help their loved one. I describe them in loving terms as a second daughter sometimes, or a second son, because we have male aging life care professionals out there as well. I think that people benefit from having an aging life care professional because we have knowledge in all the areas necessary to help a person have the best life they can have. And I think if you looked at my website, that is one of my most important functions, is I feel that people have the right to age in place or age wherever they want to age and to live their best life possible. And how do we do that? Both medically, financially, keeping your independence is important. And also just managing your day-to-day so that as a family, you don't have to worry about your mom and dad so much, and especially if you live out of town. And I do have a lot of families who are out of town, and their mom and dad live here in Texas.
So hugely important. And so let's maybe get a little bit more specific. And so what does, an aging life professional do? So kind of talk about the different things that you do so that people can get a really good feel for how much they want someone just like you in their life.
So our system, medical and otherwise, is kind of hard to navigate. And we don't have, there's not a really big how-to out there. Like when I hear people say when they have a baby, like, I'm not scared about having the baby, but what happens when I bring that baby home? Well, the same thing. How do we help our parents? How do we age? So one thing that is a big component in the first thing that I do is I'm going to evaluate each individual. I'm going to evaluate their ability to perform activities of daily living, different things like, can they manage getting to the bathroom and manage all those tasks? How well do they do, and how safe are they in the shower? How can they cook for themselves? Do they need help with meal preparation? Are they still driving? Can they go to the grocery store or perform day-to-day tasks like getting their medications? How organized are their medications? Another area that I feel is very important, and I do a lot of evaluation, is cognitive assessment. I might perform a cognitive assessment on somebody if I think they need it to see where they are. I might make recommendations to see a neurologist or a neuropsych person to help make sure we're all on the same page. Where are we and mental health wise? I'm going to also develop a plan based on all my evaluations. I'm going to look at the home. I'm going to look at home safety. Or where are they? Do they live in a senior apartment complex? Is their bathroom accessible to them? Is it safe? What are the safety issues that I see? And then I'm going to develop a full plan of action. So I'm going to make recommendations. I'm going to develop a plan. Who will be part of that plan? What are the key players in that plan? And each person will have their role. And then the plan will be reviewed with the family and with the person, and the person's wishes, desires, and hopes and dreams in mind. And then we look at all those things and hopefully put together a core team of people to help that person live the best life they can.
And so I find a lot in my practice that seniors, as they age, don't want to leave the house, no matter, even when it's not safe. Even when they can't take care of themselves, that they are absolutely not leaving the house. How do you help families navigate the transition when they can no longer stay at home?
So right now during COVID, I know a lot of my families, I've been recommending a lot of home care. And there's a lot of wonderful home care agencies out there with caregivers that can come in the home anywhere from 4 hours per day to 12-hour shifts and be there 24/7. So right now, I think a lot of people are trying to remain in their home or in their home-like environment. And for some people, that's not possible financially, because a home has a lot of hidden costs that I think people don't really take into consideration. Of course, the water heater breaks and it has to be repaired, or the roof needs to be replaced, or in our recent disaster, pipes broke. And I have, families that's $10,000 to repair all that, and that's just going to take them out financially or not be feasible. So some people might recommend moving into a more wheelchair accessible senior housing. Sometimes people can move into senior housing options that have rent assistance, where they pay 30% of their income for rent. And then, of course, there are a lot of assisted livings, and I evaluate the person, and then I look at the assisted living situation that I think might suit their needs and personality. So assisted living is also something I'm recommending right now during COVID. And then, of course, if there's other financial considerations and we have to go towards Medicaid, then we might look toward nursing home care.
So when I know that families, as you age, things are different with everybody. Some similarities, but everybody's kind of unique in what their circumstances are. How do we know? How do you tell somebody, or how should they know, the families know, that it's time to hire someone exactly like you to help them?
That's a very good question. A lot of times I get called in because it's a crisis. And so we're doing a lot of cleanup crisis care. A lot of times I get called because people go to the hospital for a fall, and frequent falls is a red flag for any family to take a look at what's happening to their mom or dad or their loved ones. Sometimes it's a grandmother or grandfather. Frequent falls is a red flag because that tells me that there's something going on, either medically or neurologically, that's causing those falls to happen. And it's a disaster just waiting to happen. And it's a trip to the hospital with a broken bone, ankle, hip. You just don't know. And sometimes that leads to further decline. So I look at avoiding meeting me at the hospital. But that is one of my biggest fortes, because I came up as a medical social worker, and I've worked in hospitals and the medical system for 36 years, and in various states throughout the United States as well. So I'm pretty familiar with medical aspect of care, and I do understand that families often call me because it's a medical problem, or because if you might be you visit mom and dad, maybe you don't see them all the time because you don't live in the same state, or you come for a visit and it's Easter. I get a lot of calls after Easter, Christmas, Thanksgiving. And I went to mom and dad's house and I noticed the mail is stacked up on the table, like this high, and we couldn't have Thanksgiving dinner because it was full of mail. And I noticed that this thing got shut off, or mom has no more cable because cable got shut off because she forgot to pay the bill. So I get calls after a holiday. If you begin to notice, you come for a visit and your mom and dad have mail stacked up and they haven't paid bills, or they're not reading their mail and tossing it out. That's a key indicator. You go and look in the refrigerator and there's food in there that is old, moldy. Maybe they've lost weight. You come and they're not looking the same. Those are all important indicators that it's time to get help in the home. It's time to call somebody and say, hey, we need guidance here. We need guidance to help us get a caregiver in here, or maybe the house is in such disrepair that it's time to start looking at how do we clean it up and move mom and dad to a safer environment.
So all good things. And absolutely. And I know that we find that, that a lot of the kids, that are sometimes even close, don't spend as much time with mom and dad as they should.
Especially during COVID, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a nice excuse for some, I think. And, but most of my families are really good about, taking care of each other, and things like that. But for those people that don't know you as well as I do and know how good you are, how do they go about choosing an aging life care professional?
So I belong to the Aging Life Care Association, and I'm also a certified licensed care manager through an organization called NACM, the National Association of Care Managers. And one of the things that I recommend looking at is I recommend going to the Aging Life Care Association website to find an aging life care specialist in your area that can help you navigate. And people that belong to the National Association of Care Managers, we have to have an education in one of the related fields. So many of us are social workers, nurses, or psychologists, or actually geriatric specialists. And then we also have to have several years under the supervision of another aging life care specialist. And we have to take and study for an exam in order to be certified. So you'll find that we are quite professional. And like I said, I had 36 years in medical social work before I, started kind of thinking about a care management position. And I had a mentor who I loved very much, and unfortunately moved out of the Texas area, but I still keep in touch with her. Myra Johnson, many of you.
Yeah, she was great too.
Great aging life care specialist in our area. And I have colleagues. We get together, we talk about cases, we talk about problems, how to solve them. And we do have to have, in addition to my social work 30 hours in 2 years, I have to have quite a few education hours to continue my certification in aging life care. And we have to have knowledge in about what we call it 8 areas. So legal, when to know to call a lawyer like you, who I recommend. We have to have knowledge in mediation because families don't always agree on how things should go. And then medical is a big one. And we have to have knowledge in what are the housing options in our area, what are the financial constraints and options for seniors, how do they fund the various types of situations that they want to be in, because there's more than one way to fund some of these things for our seniors, and I think there's creative ways that we look at. Then, of course, we have to understand the laws regarding advance directives, guardianship, and when to call those folks in.
And so all I could think about is you have to have probably more education a year than I do. I'm like,
Yeah,
and you have to take tests, more tests. I'm like, oh, so
right.
but I know, as an elder law attorney, how important it is for families to have someone in their lives that can cover all these different areas to help them come to good decisions and help them to make sure that their loved ones are getting taken care of the right way and that they're staying healthy and they're safe, because that's a big thing. And then from our perspective, we also look for elder abuse as well.
Yes.
Sure that no one is taking advantage of of this senior that's having some difficulty and now needing some extra stuff. And so do me a favor, so tell my listeners, how do they find you?
Great. You can find me on the Aging Life Care Association website. I have a website. It's not super great, but it's fun. A to Z jerrycare.com. You can email me at amzaite@gmail.com or call me. I'm available via phone as much as possible. I do answer my phone. I do call back right away as soon as I can. And I'd love to hear from people. If people are just interested in getting a general consultation from me, I do general consultation without the pressure of keeping me on as the care manager. I think some people, with financial constraints, just need a consultation to start pointing them in the right direction. I'm good doing a one-time consultation for people and helping them get started on their journey with their mom and dad. I also do presentations. I have a YouTube video out there right now, how to have the conversation, which I think is really important. So it's both sides of the coin. Mom and dad want to have a conversation with their kids, and the kids say, I don't want to talk about death, and I don't want to talk about when you get too old to take care of yourselves. And then kids kind of saying to mom and dad, hey, I have no idea what your finances are. I have no idea. Am I your medical power of attorney? Where are those documents? What do you want in the future? So I do a nice presentation about how to have the conversation with the other. And I think that's really important. One of the other important things I think that our seniors are facing and we don't think about, especially during COVID, is grief. Losing your abilities, losing your ability to be independent, losing your physical abilities if you become ill. So I do grief recovery. I do presentations on grieving and anticipatory grief from all aspects. So you can see some of those presentations on Care Partners. I also do that.
It's funny you were talking about the kids not wanting to talk to mom, because I had a couple that were in here and they're like, the kids don't want to talk about it. I said, then give them your mom look. And she goes, what? I'm like, the look that says you're going to listen to me whether I want you, whether you want to or not. I'm like, I know you have that. Every mom has the mom look. She started laughing. She said, okay, I'll do that. I'm like, give them the mom look. Say, look, this is not an option. You have to do this. You need to know these things, so. And definitely. And so you can call Andrea at 281-910-0930. And so I wanted to make sure that they got that. And Andrea, thanks so much for being on the show. What you do is so invaluable to so many families, and always good information.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me spread the word about aging life care specialists.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. wherever you listen to your podcast as we navigate through the challenges that emerge as life happens. The content of this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship or constitute attorney-client privilege, legal, medical, financial, or any other professional advice.